This is my favorite spot to collect gold, and we always do pretty good here. So let's poke around and see what we can find. Now, typically they say the inside bends and behind rocks are like some of the best places to find gold. In this particular area, it's a pretty straight stretch of river, but you can see as the water comes down, it's moving at a pretty good clip. And then places like this, where there's all these boulders just stacking up, that's like a sluice box, and it just scrubs the gold out, and the gold kind of stacks up around these cobbles and boulders mixed with sand and gravel. Now the gold definitely isn't uniform. There's pinches of it where there's some good strings, and then it pinches out where there's like nothing. So I'm gonna take some scoops around these boulders, and hopefully we can get on another hot string. Now it can definitely be tricky to dig around all these boulders. But we'll just move some out of the way. And right there I can see sand right mixed in all these boulders. That's what I want. Those are the gold traps. So here's our first test pan, cobbles, sands, gravels. That's the mix I like. Just finger rake those cobbles out of there to make it a little easier. I didn't bring my classifier, but not everybody classifies their material. The bigger pieces do make it a little more turbulent, and that turbulence can kind of kick out pieces of gold, and that's why classifying the material is better, but we should be able to still collect plenty of gold without classifying it. And we'll pull that back. Not seeing a lot of black sand. Just goes to show you gotta poke around and find that string. So that's what I'll do. I'll poke around, find a little string of it, and then I'll show you when I do. Well, I finally found a little bit of color. Right behind this rock, I was digging it out, and there's a couple specks in there. I've been checking all around, and I haven't been finding a lot. A few specks, but these are the biggest specks that I found so far. A few specks around there, and then a bigger one up there. So it's as good a place to start as any. I'm just gonna excavate this, fill a bucket, sluice it out, and then we'll see what we got. Now maybe those are the only specks here, or maybe it gets better as I dig. I have a feeling there's gonna be more specks. And ideally, if I can get down to where I'm digging on top of the clay bed, that'll be the best spot. That should be where the most accumulates, so that's what I'm gonna look for. And I do see some globs of clay in there, and a piece of pottery. Cool. Yeah, right there, that last scoop, I'm getting into the clay. Now this creek is known for having the clay layer not too far down. It only takes a few scoops before you're into that really sticky clayey till. The banks are steep because it's that clay till. Clay likes to hold together. So if you have a pretty steep bank, sometimes that means it's a clay-rich bank. I can tell it's till because it's got those gravel pieces in the clay. It's just unsorted material. This was plowed up by the glaciers. That's what was actually getting pushed as the glaciers pushed everything down. Big globs of clay. Look at that. So I've been kind of scraping right on top of that till layer. And there'll be a little bit of sand coming up with it, but I think I've kind of got it all out right behind this rock here. And my bucket's about full anyway, so I'm gonna sluice that down, see what I got, and maybe come back and extend scraping that clay layer if what's in here is worth continuing to get. I think it is. Now, one thing I really like about this creek is there's a lot of fast-moving water. Today I brought my VBR mat, 6-inch sluice box, And I'm gonna try to find a spot for that. So that water is just flying through there, maybe a little too fast. Let's put a scoop on and see. You know it's a good day when I remember my scooper. Yeah, that's a little too fast. If we were going after big chunky gold nuggets, I think that'd be fine, but I think it's a little too turbulent, so I'm gonna slow it down a bit. Well, now it's too slow. I'll slip a catch pan at the bottom just in case we're losing gold. As long as the riffles are all black by the time we're done with this, I think I'll have had it set up right. If it's catching the black sand, it'll surely be catching the gold. You know, I don't know why this is my favorite spot. It's been a long time since I've come to this creek. But just the sound, the feel, I just like it. I enjoy being here. I like people, but I enjoy being able to get away into a spot where nobody else is. That's pretty valuable. Finding gold is just a bonus. All my riffles are turning black, so I think we'll be finding gold. That's all of it. And I can see little pieces of lead. They're all the riffles are black. So that's good. All right, let's get that out. I don't see any gold. So let's pan it out and see. That cleans out so easy. Let's check my catch pan. I had this running pretty hot, so I don't think it actually kept anything. Oh, but I do see a piece of gold. That's not good. Just take a peek the way I usually do. Well, there's some lead shot. I like seeing the lead shot because that means there's heavy materials depositing there. Ooh, that's a nice piece of gold. At least one nice piece. So there's some nice chunky pieces. That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. But I wouldn't say there's a lot of pieces. Just a few nice ones. So I know I've run into better strings of gold than that here at the creek, but I'm definitely not complaining about that. I love seeing those chunky pieces of gold. So I could probably go dig right where I was digging and get a few more, but there's another spot that caught my eye. Now while I was sluicing, I saw this rock here right in the middle of the creek. And if you look close, you can see there's a big gravel deposit right underneath. The rock kind of cuts back in, so any water that's coming over this when it's really high and turbulent, that's going to be just like a drop riffle, just like in a sluice box. So any big pieces of gold might get sucked and trapped underneath that. I kind of want to dig that out just to see what's in there. I'd like to see a lot of pieces of lead and maybe some big gold. Now all this gravel right here is kind of just float gravel, and I kind of doubt there's anything in that, but if I dig down underneath, that's probably where the gold would be settling. I'm just going to take it all though. Let's just take it all and see. Yeah, it just looks like so much float sand. I don't see any heavies. kind of hoping that the gravel like gets hard and packed underneath there. That's where I would expect the heavies to accumulate, but right now it's just super light float sand. Gonna lose my hand doing this. So a nearly full bucket from underneath that rock. I haven't had the best looking for gold behind rocks, but they say it's a good place to look. And I'm just gonna speed pan this down. It's actually a little bit faster than sluicing, and I just want to see what's in there. This brings back flashbacks of panning 40 buckets on the Mississippi. All right, was it worth it? Ooh, I see one piece of lead shot. So that means heavy material was depositing there. Ooh, holy cow. Definitely worth it. That is a good amount of gold pieces. Nice chunky pieces of gold, even in that float sand. So right in that undercut there, yeah, definitely worth it. So I'm gonna go back for another bucket, going a little bit deeper, and maybe we can find even some chunkier gold. Oh boy, look at that good stuff. So there's another bucket. Again, pretty sandy, but we'll see. Because this rock is so recessed in there, like I'm digging way up underneath there, and what I'm pulling out, it's this really sandy material. It actually doesn't look good to me. You know, Jeff Williams, he always says, don't dig in the float sand. There's no gold in the float sand. But I'm digging in the float sand. And the second bucket under that rock, there's still some nice pieces of gold all along the edge of the pan there. But I don't think quite as many pieces. Now the interesting thing about digging under this rock to me is that the deeper I get underneath it, the more fine and more sandy it gets. It's not getting firmer or more packed, and there's no clay layer that I can see. But up along the edges, like in between the other rocks, that's where there's more packed gravels. And the packed gravels seem to be better than the fine, really fine sands. Now I could keep digging under that boulder up there, but honestly, when I look around, I just think anywhere you dig around these boulders could be a spot that's accumulating a little string of gold. The whole area here is like a sluice box. So in my mind, I'm just thinking anywhere I dig might have gold and it might not. I just don't know how to read a creek like this. So we'll just keep digging. As long as we're moving material, I think we'll still do all right. Let's see if I'm right. I'm just gonna take a spot right in the middle of the river, and I'm just gonna dig around these boulders here. I don't think one pan is quite enough to represent what we're digging, so I'm just gonna fill a whole bucket and pan that down. Oh my gosh, I picked about the hardest ground in the world to dig in. There's just so many boulders down there, it's hard to move your shovel around. I think that's a good enough representative sample, about a half a bucket. I'll pan that down and see if I was wasting my time. I don't think I was. I mean, it's never really a waste of time, but we'll see if there was a picker under there. That's what I really want. I want a picker today. And again, I'll just pan that out quick. All right, so that's panned down. We'll see if right in the middle of the creek is worth digging in. That half a bucket's probably the best pieces we found yet. Those are awesome pieces of gold there. A few more around the edge. I guess that kind of confirms that. Just anywhere you dig around these boulders seems to be a good spot. The whole river is a sluice box. Pretty cool. Let's keep digging. So I'm gonna do another sluice run here. You might be thinking, well, if panning's faster, why don't you just stick with panning? Well, panning might be faster, but it's also a lot harder on the back. A lot more tiring and a lot less relaxing. And sometimes I just want to sit and be relaxed while I prospect. So that bucket is sluiced through and I can see pieces of lead all over. I don't see any gold, but the fact that there's lead there is always a good sign. A little sunshine now, that'll really make that gold sparkle. Lots of lead on this one. Ooh, and there's some good gold with that lead. You can see all the lead shot in there, all the way up there. But along with that lead are nice pieces of gold. Look at the size of that garnet. Holy cow. That's like a ruby. Now when I look through the tailings here, I don't see like a lot of different types of rock. Some places you go, there's just so many different types of rocks. But here there's a lot of igneous rocks and a lot of metamorphic rocks. And I've said it before, the metamorphic rocks seem to be where I find the best gold, where there's a lot of metamorphic rocks because that's where the mountain building events happened and that's where the gold was deposited. I do see some pieces of quartz, but not a lot, but it is here. However, we've also talked about just because it's a quartz vein doesn't mean there's gold in that quartz. It takes very specific conditions for the gold to deposit along with that quartz. But okay, enough of that. I'm just gonna go back to the pan and pan this next bucket out. Sometimes I can't help it but take a peek on the first scoop. Whoops, shouldn't have taken a peek. There's nothing in that one. Now I'm disheartened.
Well, I'm fine. It's just that life is pointless and nothing matters and I'm always tired.
Not really. I'm like a gambling addict. Just keep pulling that lever hoping I get the jackpot. And a whole lot of specks of gold. And some more lead. These fish kind of like the hole I dug. As much as a fish likes swimming in that hole, I can't leave it open. I have to fill my hole. It's required by the DNR. The DNR is the one who gives us the right to pan. It's not written in the law. And if people come out and they start digging holes, leaving tailings piles, the DNR can take that away. It's by committee, not by elected officials. So just do everybody a favor. Fill your holes. Leave no trace. Because if everybody left their holes open, nobody would be panning anymore. They'd lose that right. So I think I've done enough buckets for today. I'm gonna pack up my stuff, head on back to the shop, and we'll clean up the gold. All right, we're back at the shop with our classifieds and our garbage. But let's classify that to a smaller size and we'll run it through our Flower Gold Wizard cleanup sluice. Better check this for nuggets. Wow! A garnet. There were no nuggets. But as usual where I find gold, there's a lot of garnets. And this one has a lot of particularly big garnets, so I'll separate some of those out. But now let's go ahead and fire up the sluice and we'll get that taken care of. Oh boy. It's always fun when you start seeing that gold stack up. There we go. And there's what we got, all cleaned up. No pickers, but still pretty nice pieces. And there's some of those garnets I collected. You put those into the sun and they look just like rubies. I don't know if that's going to be enough to weigh, but we'll try. .020. So at today's price, that's $2.57 worth of gold. And that's a pretty good day to me, and I'm happy with that. Thank you guys for coming along. Come on back for the next one. Bye-bye.